Afternoon 49ers update here in the playoffs. So many thoughts, so little time, so little sunshine left. I'm here at Aquatic Park, which is actually a stadium on the water. As you can see, these are the seats. They're just concrete slabs, but these are the seats. That is the enclosed part of the bay where you could swim with a little bit more protection from the very rugged waters of the open bay. And because it's wintertime, not a lot of sunlight, so if I want to get in the water before it gets too dark, I have to go in just a little bit. But the back of Aquatic Park, Ghirardelli Square, where they make all the chocolate, right behind me. So this is a cool spot of San Francisco. You get some of the historical warehouses, tourist traps, and then of course you get where all of us crazy open water swimmers like to get in the bay, with a few historic ships like to swim around those ships sometimes though. Anyway, today I was in the locker room. I told you about how Nick Bosa looked at me at the press conference when he wanted to know the 49ers finish in defensive yards per game allowed on Sunday. I had all the answers for him. I showed him my tweet with all the ranks, right? 49ers defense, number 1 yards per game, number 1 in points per game, number 1 in DVOA. And Nick asked me, what's DVOA? And I told him what DVOA was. It's defense adjusted value over average. Points per game, yards per game, those are more simple stats. DVOA is going to be a more advanced stat. So I gave him those numbers: EPA per play, points allowed per drive. All of them were number 1. And so Nick saw the stats. He saw the defense ranked number 1 everywhere. And he said, so we're pretty much number 1, right? And he had one of those trademark smiles on his face. And the answer is yes, Nick, you are number 1. And he's also number 1 in the NFL in sacks. You can watch my other video where I recount the conversation with Jimmy Garoppolo today. He was in the locker room for a little bit, so that's the full update. I don't want to get further into that here because that's going to take a couple minutes, so be sure you check that out. Otherwise, the 49ers today took it easy at practice. They were not in pads. Only 2 players had helmets on. That was Brock Purdy and Josh Johnson, the new quarterbacks, I'm assuming because they wanted to have a helmet on to simulate what actual throwing is going to be like during a game. It's a lot different doing that with a helmet and without a helmet. But the 49ers are recovering, resting their bodies, getting ready for a Saturday game after a Sunday game. So it's technically a short week for their bodies. Obviously, the Seahawks are on the same page. Speaking of Seattle, Pete Carroll's been waxing poetic about the 49ers. Today, Pete Carroll said, and I quote, "Unfortunately, we're playing the Niners," end quote. Now, obviously some gamesmanship, but I think that Pete Carroll understands the reality of the situation. And the reality is that the 49ers are much, much better than the Seahawks. They crushed them in week 2. They crushed them in week 15. Would have been a whole lot worse if not for some intervention from the officiating in that football game. So Pete Carroll knows that if this game, plays out to serve, right? If it plays out the way that it should on paper, that the Seahawks are going to get blown out. The 49ers are going to run them out of Levi's Stadium on Saturday. So one way that, you might be able to score the upset is if the 49ers come out a little bit flat, if the 49ers are reading a little too many of their press clippings. So what better way than to create some positive press clippings for the 49ers to read? And Pete Carroll came on KMBR the other day, glowed about the 49ers. Pete Carroll at his press conference today said, "Unfortunately, we're playing the Niners." Now, even though he might have a reason, Pete Carroll might have a motive to, and he does obviously have a motive to blow up the 49ers a little bit. It's true. Unfortunately for the Seahawks, they are playing the 49ers, and they are 10-point underdogs. Now we move to Brock Purdy. Kyle Shanahan had a funny quote today. Purdy took the 17-yard sack. Obviously not a good sack to take. Learning moment for the young quarterback. Kyle Shanahan said that he was yelling in his ear right after when he was able to radio in the next play. Barely got in the next play because he was yelling at Brock Purdy, "You cannot be taking that sack." And I'll say this, better that he took that sack in the regular season, week 18 against the Cardinals, than moving forward. So for the 49ers' sake, hopefully Brock Purdy has gotten that out of his system. All right, big live coming up tonight, so be sure to tune into that. For now, you can like the video, sub to the channel. Check out Aquatic Park right behind me. A nice little stadium seating. It is a beautiful day in San Francisco. Pan around, check it out. Everybody, we will talk to you later tonight on a live. Take care.